been 20 years since the Detroit Tigers won the World Series. And this weekend, the '84 team will be honored as they return to Detroit to commemorate the season that brought this town its last baseball crown. Now is the time for the current Tigers team to make strides toward the AL Central crown and reclaim the glory of that '84 season. Welcome to a special edition of Tigers Weekly, where we commemorate the '84 Tigers by making a brief return to the scene of the crime here at the corner of Michigan and Trumbull, where the Tigers last captured a World Series championship. Hi, everybody. I'm Trevor Thompson, and back in '84, Chet Lemon was my favorite Tiger, but this year's Tigers are hoping that guys like Trammell, Gibson, and Parrish can show them the way to the promised land.
High drive into deep left field. Back goes Martinez, way back. It's gone.
Well, I think when I look back now, 20 years later, it was the fact that we kind of grew together, and the nucleus kind of grew together. And of course, we felt that the final piece was Darrell Evans, he's kind of the father figure that we needed in the clubhouse. But it was just one of those things that in '83 we kind of were knocking on the door, and we were hungry.
The more '84 members we bring back, the more the memories come back, because every time we see people, we talk about it, and I think we used it as a reference point for the present team.
Well, I think that just looking at the way that they go about their day, you know, the way they prepare themselves just to even coach, you know, they prepare themselves in a way that you know that they have been there before. You know that they're good players, and they were great players back in the day.
Well, believe me, every time we see Tram and we see Kurt Gibson out there and Lance Parrish, I mean, these guys have been through so many successful years with the Tigers that it's just we can't help it to always be reminded of the fact that this is a winning franchise. There's a winning tradition here in Detroit, and we want to get it back.
They've been there and done that. They've seen both sides of the field. You know, they've seen the great winning season. They also experienced a little turmoil, and those guys, they didn't forget that they were players. So they don't come down on us hard. But they make us understand that, you know, you can play the game, but then you play to win.
They never backed down last year. They kept going and never really gave in at all. You know, and there's plenty of times that any of us could have done that. But it all starts with your coaching staff. And the players are going to feed off of the manager and the rest of the staff. And they really set a good example on, you know, how to go about your business.
For me, Tram's knowledge and Gibby's fire together, I mean, that pumps me up every day, really. When Gibby's around, it's like I'm going to give it my all. You don't want to mess up. Because Gibby's going to let you know, you know? And I think we really needed somebody like that.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of knowledge there. You have to kind of feed off of it when you can. I mean, there's certain situations, if you want to know what a hitter's thinking, in any situation, Trammell, Gibby, Lance, they're knowledgeable. You know, Lance is going to be working with us this year again as well. And so, I mean, it's great to have that knowledge there when you need to rely on it.
Well, they've explained to us from day one how good of a baseball city this is. And if you win for the city of Detroit, they will come out full force to support your ball club. And if we bring back that tradition of the '84 team, everyone will know where the Tigers are now and who we are and what we stand for. So as long as you keep winning and they instill that winning attitude on us, we'll be a good contending team and bring the fans out again.
So now we're at Comerica Park, where the Tigers team of today is finally taking steps in the right direction, and certainly that's something today's fans can be happy about. Now we're going to take you to some Royals-Tigers highlights of their most recent series, but first, some Tigers-Royals highlights that evoke more pleasant memories.
Fred hits it sharply to Evans. He'll do it himself, and the Tigers are 1 out away.
And now the crowd is not to be quieted. They stand as one. Look at them.
Popped up in foul ground and playable, and the Tigers win the pennant.
Now let's fast forward from the ALCS of '84 to the 2004 Tigers taking on the Royals earlier this week. Kauffman Stadium in KC is a beautiful place, just not kind to the Tigers this week. Gary Knotts would try his luck. Pudge gets him off to a good start with his 2-run homer off of Darryl May, making it 2-0 Tigers, but those were the only runs they'd score on the night. Jeremy Affeldt cased Pudge to close out the game. 7-3 was your final in Game 2. The Royals would go for the sweep on Thursday, but they were denied when Carlos Pena doubled to center, scoring a pair of Tigers. But the party didn't stop there. Still in the second, Pudge doubles to right, plating 2 of his 4 RBIs on the day, and the Tigers go on to snap their 5-game skid, the final 12-3 in KC. You know, it's too bad the Tigers couldn't have won that most recent series against the Royals, but it will be a winning weekend here at Comerica Park as the '84 Tigers return to Detroit to commemorate that success they experienced 20 years ago. Well, it's time for a break here on Tigers Weekly, but stick around because when we come back, we'll talk trades and turkey when Ernie Harwell stops by. Jason Johnson shows why he's not only a success on the mound, but away from baseball as well. And Shireen Sasky takes a walk for a cause. We'll explain when Tigers Weekly continues. No catcher has won a batting title since 1942. But there is hope this year for Tigers catcher Ivan Rodriguez. After Pudge's last 2 weeks of hot hitting, including a 14-game hitting streak, he finds himself atop the AL in batting average. Normally, the hardest spot to contend for a batting title is the catcher position because of the long, grueling season behind the plate. This could be the season for Pudge, who not only leads the league in batting average, but also leads all catchers in votes for the All-Star game. It would be Pudge's 11th appearance and his first since 2001. Plus, he would be the first Tiger since Cecil Fielder in 1991 to be voted to the Midsummer Classic.
There's a long blast, way back and gone.
You know, back in 1984, Lance Parrish was the Pudge Rodriguez of his day. And today, both have World Series championship rings on their finger. And both men will tell you that if a pitcher wants to be successful, he cannot give up many walks. But both will also tell you that there are times a good long walk can be very successful. Shireen Sasky explains.
They all come from different communities, different backgrounds, and different families, yet they are connected by a common bond. In some way, they all have been affected by breast cancer.
I consider myself a 5-year survivor. I was diagnosed in 1999. I had a recurrence in 2002, but I'm doing fabulous now thanks to the research and the medicines that we have out today, and it's just amazing. I could barely walk 2 years ago, and today I'm walking pain-free.
Research is extremely expensive, but lives are priceless. And that's why the race for the cure is so crucial in the fight against breast cancer.
We all just decided that there was a need for, to raise money for the race for the cure, and we just wanted to be a part of that. And also, I particularly have a best friend whose mom passed away 1.5 years ago. Judy Lett was her name, and it's just such an honor to walk in memory of her today.
It's neat to see the survivors because in my case, I know people that are fighting and I know people that have lost, and I don't know any survivors. Sorry. So it's neat for me to be here and see everybody in memory of, Shauna and Becky, and we love you guys, and it's important to me.
Look at all these people. Oh my goodness.
The Tigers' wives join more than 25,000 other supporters in the race for the cure. This is the 13th year for the event. First time for the Tigers' wives, but certainly not the last.
I've been wanting to do something like this for a long time, and I'm honored. I'm very excited to be here to support.
all the women, everybody who's had breast cancer, and just be a supporter of them.
I have been able to meet so many survivors today, and it has been awesome, just the hugs I'm getting and the smiles from them, and just getting their experiences. It has been awesome, just hearing where they came from. I met a survivor of 20 years today.
It touches my heart so much that people, you know, come out today to help us raise money for awareness and for research, because we're out here to race for a cure, and without their support, I mean, we may not find that cure. We need the money to do the research and to give us hope.
Hope that one day there's nothing but a sea of pink, a sea of breast cancer survivors.
Now, I know that walk has a lot of meaning, not only for Shireen and all the Tigers' wives, but for millions across America. It's a very worthwhile cause. Well, I'm going to take another time out here on Tigers Weekly, but stick around, because when we come back, we've got more 84 memories. Ernie gets traded, and Jason Johnson talks about overcoming all the odds.
You know, there's not very many people that can say that they've had diabetes and been in professional sports, like in the upper levels. And myself being able to go out there and to show young kids that have diabetes that I'm playing in the major leagues, the top level of the game, with the same disease they have, I hope gives them encouragement that they can do anything they want to.
The Tigers are calling up right-handed reliever Franklin Herman from AAA and sending lefty Steve Collier back down. Collier struggled of late as he adjusted to the left-handed specialist role, while Herman is back on top of his game this season after spending much of last season with the big club. This season, with the Mud Hens, he's recorded 18 saves with a 2.12 ERA and improved on his control by allowing only 13 walks in 29 innings of work. Herman is also expected to be joined by Mud Hens teammate Marcus Thames. Marcus is a former top 10 Yankees prospect that the Tigers signed as a free agent in the off-season, and he's looking to get a chance to shine at the big league level. Thames leads the International League in several offensive categories that include home runs, runs scored, and ribbies. He got called up just in time for him to face the Arizona Diamondbacks, the team he got his first major league hit against, a two-run homer off a hard-throwing Randy Johnson. Let's hope that Thames can continue to have success against the Diamondbacks this weekend, only for his new team, the Tigers, here at Comerica Park. And at the same time, we'll hope Jason Johnson continues to have success for the Tigers. He's had to battle not only hitters, but the disease of diabetes to get where he is today.
Swung out and missed. He struck him out.
He's a fighter, a person that has taken the disease of diabetes and turned it into a positive. Yes, Jason Johnson has found himself dealing with a disease which affects more than 6.5% of America's population today.
What I have is hereditary. You know, it runs in the family. It's juvenile diabetes, so I got it when I was 11 years old. And basically my pancreas doesn't produce insulin at all, like any normal person. So I have to wear an insulin pump or take shots, you know, insulin shots to keep my blood sugars under control.
Johnson doesn't just sit back and deal with this himself. He gets out into the community to prove to people that they're not alone and that hope can still float within.
I have about probably 6 or 7 things I'm going to do this year, during this year with diabetes, and Ford Motor Company. I'm going to work with them with diabetes also. And, you know, there's a young girl that wrote me a letter named Vanessa Varija. She's working on like a support group for young kids because, you know, some kids, they get depressed when they have diabetes because they don't think they can do, you know, what they want to do. And I'm going to write her back and, you know, maybe try to help her out a little bit.
Johnson is very active with many different fundraisers to raise money and awareness for diabetes. He wants to help in any way he can and hopes to inspire others to follow their dreams.
Walks to cure diabetes and stuff like that. A lot of times I like to go out there and you know, start it off, speak a little bit before it starts, and then start it off and let, you know, get the race going and stuff like that. And, things that raise money to fund the, you know, research that's looking for a cure is something I'm really interested in.
He's come far, but for others, he wants to make sure they follow the path they're on, regardless of any limitations.
I think that, it's one thing that I want to do is give back, because where I'm at right now, playing Major League Baseball is, a dream of mine, and I have diabetes. There's not very many people that can say that they've had diabetes and been in professional sports, like in the upper levels. And myself being able to go out there and to show young kids that have diabetes that I'm playing in the Major League, the top level of the game, with the same disease they have, I hope gives them encouragement that they can do anything they want to, and to maybe prove to other coaches that may think that kids that have diabetes can't do it, prove them wrong.
We often forget just how much these guys really do contribute inside the community, and it's great to have a guy like Jason Johnson come along and remind us. Okay, it's time for another timeout here on Tigers Weekly, but stick around because when we come back, we talk trades with one of the all-time greats, Ernie Harwell. That and more when Tigers Weekly continues. Smooth-hitting Tiger shortstop Carlos Guillen signed a 3-year deal worth $14 million. Guillen and the Tigers have been working on a contract extension since the beginning of the year. Carlos, coming into this week, has been swinging a hot bat, hitting .322 with 10 home runs and 47 ribbies. His numbers so far give him a great chance to make his first All-Star team this season.
Renicky off the bag at first. The pitch, he swings, and there's a fly ball to left. Here comes Herndon. He's there. He's got it. The Tigers are the champions of 1984. They raced on the field of Bob Hernandez.
When San Diego's Tony Gwynn flied out to left fielder Larry Herndon, ending the 1984 World Series, it capped off a magical season in Detroit as the Tigers won their 4th World Championship in team history. While all of the Tigers put up spectacular numbers that season, it was closer Willie Hernandez that was the biggest surprise. In one of the greatest trades in team history, the Tigers acquired Willie Hernandez and first baseman Dave Bergman from Philadelphia in exchange for utility man John Walkenfuss and outfielder Glenn Wilson during March of 1984. Early in the season, manager Sparky Anderson tabbed Hernandez as the team's stopper, and Willie proved he deserved the role. Coming out of the bullpen, Hernandez posted a 9-3 record and had a minuscule 1.92 earned run average and converted 32 of 33 save opportunities. Those numbers added up to his selection as both the American League Cy Young winner and Most Valuable Player award winner. By winning both awards in 1984, Willie became just the 5th pitcher in Major League history to do so, joining Brooklyn's Don Newcomb, Oakland's Vida Blue, Raleigh Fingers, and the hero of Detroit's 1968 championship team, Denny McLain. Yeah, that trade back in '84 to have Willie Hernandez come out of the bullpen for the Tigers really paid off big time. They won the World Series. The trade made a whole lot of sense. But in the annals of baseball lore, there are plenty of trades that didn't make a whole lot of sense. Here's Ernie Harwell to tell us about a couple.
Hi again, good lookers. I'm Ernie Harwell. Wow, looks like we got a Tiger fan around here. Who would that be? I wonder. Well, thank you very much, and hi again, the good lookers. I want to talk about some goofy trades that have happened in baseball. In fact, I'm a participant in one of them. But this goes back a long ways, back to my days in the Southern Association when I broadcast the Atlanta Cracker games. That was a minor league team. They were in the Southern League. And we had a guy in that league who was an executive that was really a great promoter. He was sort of an early Bill Veeck, and he did all kinds of things. His name was Joe Engel, E-N-G-E-L, and he was the owner of the Chattanooga Lookout. But what I want to tell you about Joe Engel is the deal that he made. Joe Engel had a shortstop named Johnny Jones, and he wasn't much of a player, and Joe didn't take a whole lot of him. So on Thanksgiving week, Joe Engel traded his shortstop, Johnny Jones, to the Charlotte Hornets, and in return for Johnny Jones, he got a Thanksgiving turkey. And the turkey was cut up by the sports writers, and they had a nice turkey dinner because Joe Engel had traded Johnny Jones for the turkey. The other trade I wanted to tell you about was one that involved yours truly. I was working for the Atlanta Crackers after I came out of the Marines, And in 1948, the great Brooklyn announcer Red Barber became ill on a trip to Pittsburgh. They rushed him to the Presbyterian Hospital, thought he might die, didn't know when he'd come back to work. And his boss, Branch Rickey, got in touch with the man who owned the Atlanta Crackers, the man who hired me. His name was Earl Mann. And Mr. Rickey said, Earl, I'd like to have Ernie Harwell come up and replace Red Barber as the Brooklyn announcer. And Earl Mann said, well, Mr. Rickey, that's fine, but let me tell you this, I've got Ernie under contract, and if you're really serious, and if you really want Ernie Harwell to come up there, you trade me your catcher from Montreal, Cliff Dapper. So I was traded for a minor league catcher, and that's how I got to the big league. By the way, I never met Cliff Dapper until they had a day for me here a couple of years ago at Comerica Park, and the Tigers were nice enough to pay his expenses to bring him in, and we met on the field for the very first time. But I was one of the guys involved in a goofy trade. Now back to you.
That Ernie Harwell is quite the baseball historian. He could talk about the 84 Tigers, the 68 Tigers, and just about anything else that happened in baseball over the last 60 years. We certainly miss him on the broadcast, but we're glad he's still a part of things here on Tigers Weekly and that he'll be around for the 84 celebrations this weekend. Here's a look at what's ahead for the Tigers this week. Monday's an off day, but Tuesday they start a 3-game series against the Cleveland Indians at Comerica Park. 6:30 pregame shows both Tuesday and Wednesday with John Keating. 7:05 is your first pitch. Then Friday, it's off for a 3-game series against the Colorado Rockies. Make sure to tune in next week for another edition of Tigers Weekly, Saturday at 11:30. All right, as we say goodbye from the corner, we look back at the 84 Tigers one more time and have a look at the team they've assembled 20 years later. For everybody involved in the show, I'm Trevor Thompson saying thanks for joining us. See you next week.